Welcome back to Two Pastors and a Mic. My name is Channock.
And I'm Cory.
And as always, we're so glad that you're joining us wherever you're listening or watching from. We want you to know that we appreciate you. We're thankful for you. If you haven't done it already, would you please go like, share, subscribe our YouTube channel, Apple Podcast. If you're on Spotify, you can rate us, leave stars, I believe.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, leave that review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate those. We get together and look through those. Cory reads them to me when we get a new one. And then every once in a while, we'll reminisce and kind of go back through and see some of the encouraging.
I've never done that.
Yeah, we have. We get into it, or maybe I just do that. I get into it and read maybe the latest one. And then I'll like scroll back. Oh, here was one from a month ago. I remember that. Oh, keep scrolling. These are good. So
good stuff.
Just reach out. We'd appreciate if you would let us know how this podcast has impacted you, encouraged you, or maybe even challenged you. We'd want to know. So you can reach out through YouTube, through posts, through comments, through our social media posts. Or you could always email us, either Cory or Channock at hillcity.tv.
Yeah, do the dang thing. We appreciate everybody who has been on this journey with us. Can you believe how long we've been doing this podcast? And this is our first week back in the booth in several weeks. You are officially back from Cancun. How was your trip?
It was great.
It was great.
Yep, just chill time.
He did text me a couple times, so I felt the love. I felt it all. So, hey, we're back at it again, going through my different eBooks, which if you haven't gone and downloaded the eBooks, what are you doing? They're all for free. You can find them on my website, saintsnotsinners.com. In fact, the November one just released last week. It was How to Pray and Prophesy in the New Covenant. Been hearing a lot of good conversations around that. And so, yeah,
that was one of my favorite, just being a little bit more evangelistic as I am and wanting to know how to encourage people without necessarily doing it in the traditional way that I was taught growing up, where you would always tear people down and then try to build them up after.
Do I want a prophetic word or not?
Yeah.
What, are they going to read my mail?
But just encouraging and bringing peace to people in the process, because you connect them back to Jesus, who is peace, right?
Yeah.
And I really like that one.
Yeah, thanks.
So I appreciate you putting that together.
It's crazy that they're all officially finished. December will be coming out obviously in the next couple of weeks, but what a journey for 2025. What a challenge, and I'm excited to have completed that. I'm excited to think about the next thing, if we're being honest, which I know isn't always healthy, but sometimes the planning and you're like, okay, do I really want to keep producing content? Is it worth it for how much time and effort goes into it? And what's potentially next? Yeah, that's where I'm at today. So
same. I think I sent you a message while I was in Cancun. It was one of the things I reached out to him about. Like, okay, I think I got a lot of clarity now. I've stepped away from everything, and what's next?
Yeah,
even for me personally. And those of you that listen, you probably can tell just from listening to our podcast. Cory and I share a lot. We spend a lot of time together here in the office, and we bounce stuff off of each other and get either encouragement or wisdom or even challenge from each other.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to do that. And so right away, if you're listening, who's that person that you reach out to get encouragement, or to maybe ask them for a perspective that maybe you don't see, and be open and willing to listen to what they might have to say, even if it's sometimes challenging to hear. And so far, we don't have anything, or I don't have anything for me yet on what's next, especially around the content side of things. Still going full gung-ho into...
I don't think I've ever heard you use that phrase.
I know, okay. Gung-ho. I don't even know what else to say other than full out working still diligently on RElife and what that means. And it's one of those things, those of you that listen, I think you've heard us talk a lot about RElife. If you haven't, we're doing this affordable housing for single moms in our community. We're up to 5 different properties. Hopefully we'll close on our 6th before the end of the year.
Let's go.
In the next 6 weeks.
That's the first time you've said that. You haven't even said this to our church.
No, I haven't yet. We got a couple. We actually now have 2 potentials, and I have to decide between them.
Both. My idea is both.
Well, that would be great. I just don't think we have the resources yet. If you want to
So if
just
you're
give us the
listening,
year-end gift and get us to a place where we're able to buy both, that would be amazing.
the
But right
power
now
of
it's going to be,
re.com, the power of
yep,
re.com. Someone's listening that
it's
can
going
do
to
that.
be just the one. But in that, if you have your own home or even apartment, or if you own anything, there is maintenance to
Oh,
things. There
yeah.
is oversight to things. And even that in and of itself is a lot of work. And so imagine all the things that you do for your own home, the upkeep that it takes, the maintenance, the fixing of things, and then now times that by 5. And that's kind of my world right now. Now we've built up an incredible team to help with a lot of that, but
Mhm.
there's still oversight and facilitating to make sure all of those things get happen. And then now in this program, it's a 2-year program. Some moms moving out now that some of them have been in the program for 2 years.
Isn't that
We have
crazy?
one that's getting ready to move out, but it's amazing. She's actually getting into a Habitat for Humanity home, which she actually has to purchase from them and go through that process. But because she's going through them, there's a lot of discounted rates. It's a brand new home that was built. It's an amazing opportunity for her. But then she moves out. There's a lot of logistics with that. And then the new mom that's going to be chosen by our committee to move in. It's just a lot. It's
Isn't
an
that crazy?
ongoing
I can't believe
thing that
that's
takes
happening.
a lot of time. And so,
2 years already? Like what? That's
yeah,
wild.
yeah, our first mom moved in December of 2023, and she's moving out December 1st, 2025 into her own home. How amazing is that?
Crazy. What a cool ministry. Thanks for starting it, sustaining it. We'll talk about sustaining here in a little bit because honestly, today's topic is probably my favorite ebook. And the words I wrote in this month's ebook will probably fit their way into my next project in some way. Maybe my next project will be a full book around union. That seems to be like the heartbeat going on right now of our church, of the things I like to study. This one was kind of a provocative title on purpose, but I meant it that way because I think the church and Christianity as a whole doesn't do a great job talking about perfection. And so this was June's, is how to be perfect. And I want you, as the listener, I'm going to unpack a couple things here, but I want you to focus on 2 E's, 2 E words. It's experience and express. Experience and express. And so perfection is very simply defined is you experience perfection because of the work of Christ. It's a gift.
Finished work.
All of humanity is already perfect. Like thinking about that is very provocative because I know, well, there's
Right.
still
It is
sin and all
provocative,
this
yeah.
stuff. But you experience it because of Jesus's work. That's the finished work. But you express it in the way that you treat humanity. And I specifically believe that you express it in a specific way, and that expression will always look like mercy.
Right. And I was going to ask you, like, why do you say that in your expression? There's one way that plays out, and you actually got this. It's not just an opinion
Yep.
or some revelation the Spirit showed you outside of Scripture.
Yep.
It actually is pretty clear and plain.
Yeah. Well,
what the gospel writers explained this to be.
It real quick though, it's a 15-minute read. There's a lot of scripture in the ebook. I really encourage you to go download it. It was released in June, and it was right after the ebook on God's judgment and wrath, because God's judgment and wrath are mercy. And so I piggybacked it with a kind of responsibility piece, is how to be perfect is, well, you be merciful. And I'll unpack those scriptures in just a second. But this should really be the staple of the lives of Christians, in my opinion, is are we merciful? That's an expression of love, which that's what we get from the Father. And there's a lot of confusion around this perspective of perfection because we oftentimes attach perfection to moral behavior. And so my goal of the ebook is to challenge that thought. And it comes from Matthew 5, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5:48. He says, according to Matthew's interpretation of this portion of the sermon, he says, be perfect like your Father in heaven is perfect. And so there's a lot of sermons and thoughts around that. What I found to be very interesting I started reading the chronological Bible like in 2018. It wasn't in print, but like looking at the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and trying to read the stories all in chronological order. So you'll go throughout the books. And so in this portion of the scriptures that I was reading, it was attached to Luke 6:36,
right,
which is the same Sermon on the Mount, just Luke's perspective. And it's not a misinterpretation. He uses a completely different Greek word.
right.
in his interpretation of what Jesus is saying in this portion. And in his version in Luke 6, it's not be perfect like your Father in heaven is perfect. It's be merciful like your Father in heaven is merciful. And so I kind of attach those two things as, maybe it's not, maybe they both heard correctly, because maybe to be perfect is to be merciful. And so that's kind of like the foundation. That's the foundation of you experience perfection because of Jesus. You express it when you understand mercy. You've been shown mercy, now show mercy to the world. Because again, like perfection isn't a standard to reach. It's a state of being rooted in mercy, identity, and flow. So it's not morality, it's mercy. So I kind of contrast those two M words throughout the ebook. So
yeah, no, I love that. And if it's okay, I want to go off on a little bit of a tangent right here, because I was actually thinking about something this morning. And to be honest, I hadn't given any thought to what we were going to be coming in here and recording this morning yet. So I didn't know it was all about mercy. But I had this thought this morning when I was driving. I was actually on my way to a closing this morning, and just in the truck, just spending some time just in prayer and contemplation. And I started thinking about this idea of mercy and how we were always taught it growing up. And the listener, you probably, if you were raised around church, you probably have heard this, is that grace is getting what you don't deserve. And then mercy is not getting what you do deserve. Mm-hmm. And that's the way people would contrast that to bring some understanding to mercy. But I'm like, wait a minute. Mercy is not getting what I do deserve. And people said that in light of, we don't get wrath and we don't get punishment. We deserve hell. We deserve, judgment and all of these things, but God withholds that, and that's his mercy to us. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I don't know why I've thought this for a while, but I've never really spent enough time in it. I'm like, wait a minute. Like where I'm at in my understanding of grace and kingdom is that, right, God is my dad, and I deserve not his punishment and judgment and things like that. No, I deserve his love and affection. I deserve his attention because I'm a son of his. Mm-hmm. So why would this be? Mercy is not getting what we deserve, like some retributive punishment or something based on some actions. And then I started thinking about my own kids, like nothing they could do would cause me to want to necessarily judge them in a way that would lead to some punishment in their life that would be like eternal. Am I making sense right now?
Yeah, I don't know where you're going though.
So I put this, so I actually put it in like everything I was saying, like, and I just hit record, and I recorded this like 5 to 8 minute
mini sermon
segment,
while you were alone in your car.
Yes, in my car. I hit record.
Picture this.
And then I was like, I put it in ChatGPT. I was like, okay, make this make sense, because I know what I'm trying to say.
Wait, you did this morning?
This morning. And here's what it came back to, and this was actually pretty phenomenal.
So if I can just read
it, it's very quick.
Okay, yeah.
Grace and mercy.
Are you going to read your part though to see what?
No, it was a recording.
Oh, so it's a good amount.
Yeah, it's like 5 to 8 minutes recording.
Right.
No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
It says grace and mercy reframed through sonship. Mercy is actually God meeting you in your pain with compassion. Not because you're guilty or deserve wrath, but because you're beloved and you deserve care. So mercy is God moving towards you when you're hurting, God refusing to let shame define you, God defending the dignity you forgot you had, God saying your pain matters and I'm here. Mercy is not God withholding punishment. It's God moving towards you in tenderness. Mercy is God saying, I see where you're wounded and you don't have to walk through this alone. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then later on, it gives some other stuff like, put simply, mercy is God's heart responding to your pain. Grace is God's life flowing into your capacity. If mercy holds you, grace lifts you. Mercy says you matter. Grace says you belong. Now go live fully. Now, why this matters? Because if you begin with, I deserve punishment, you'll always see God's kindness as surprising or even undeserved. But if you begin from a beloved identity, you see mercy and grace as a natural expression of the Father's heart. This is the shift, not avoiding wrath, but awakening to love, not escaping punishment, but embracing belonging. not sinners hoping to be pardoned, but sons and daughters living in abundance. And I'm like, I'm there getting ministered to in my truck by myself,
Preach, you like preach,
putting
chat.
this stuff in, and by Chat GPT even.
Yeah.
And it was just phenomenal when you make that shift. And I loved like that language around it,
Yeah.
like this sense of, no, mercy is actually us being sons and daughters and aware of his love for us. Like, and it's not punishment, it's actually God moving towards us.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. And even that moving towards us isn't like him getting closer. It's you becoming aware of his permanent presence in your life. Because again, the starting point is union.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out
that
there since we're talking about mercy. That
Heck
just
yeah.
happened this morning.
I love it. Well, look at that. You be encouraged, and we didn't even plan that. That's the whole point. Experience mercy as a gift, express it as, or experience perfection as a gift and express it as mercy to the world. I use this story from Luke 15, the Prodigal Son, which I've preached it multiple times in our church. The one line that I love the most, because it's so unique and many people skip over it, is the oldest son, after the younger son returns and there's a party, he says he heard the music and them dancing, heard the dancing. Remember, because he's out in the field, he can't see this party. He heard them dancing, which makes me think, I know it's a parable, so it's not a real story, but if that's the context and that's the language they use to describe things, then Jews knew how to party. First century Jews knew how to party. They were throwing down, and I make this joke like, Ludacris and Lil Jon and Usher showed up, first century, Snoop Dogg. They were dropping it like it's hot. But I tied that thought into a metaphoric challenge to the listener as we open up the ebook is, do people hear Christians dancing, or do they hear Christians judging and criticizing, critiquing?
Yeah.
Like, and so that's the opening challenge of this whole concept of, if people look at our lives, would they want the Jesus that we worship? Because if you're hearing people dancing, they're throwing down, they're having fun, the life of the party. And again, if we're talking about being the life of the party, we're not saying you have to be participating in sin to be in the life of the party. Like, get over this mindset of what you think is fun. You get to define what fun is through the holistic lens of understanding your union with Christ. Do people feel valued and empowered by your presence? Do we create safe spaces for dialogue and doubt? Are we provoking the world to jealousy? Which was, I did a whole camp called Make 'Em Jealous off of Tony Fitzgerald's thought. He asked that question at that conference we were at like 10 years ago. It was like, are we provoking the world to jealousy? Not with self-righteous ideologies or behaviors, but with our freedom, our peace, and our joy. And I love that, of like, make the world jealous. Like, you should be living in a way that people should be curious about the reason and that you live that specific way. And so in my opinion, here's my judgment on that is, I think that people who follow Jesus should be the most entertaining, fun, creative, innovative, attractive, loving, and grace-filled people on the planet. So again, that goes into, we experience perfection because of Christ. We express it through our mercy to the world. We did a whole podcast on the Beatitudes a couple of years ago. And the one that was something I had never heard before that we taught, I don't know if I learned it from you or not, but the one,
I remember us talking about it though.
Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And like, I always assumed that the pure in heart was around your behavior. Like, blessed are those who are pure in their lifestyle. Right. But when we did a deep dive on that episode, I've actually shown or sent that podcast out twice in the last month to people because they asked about that. It actually means the pure in heart see God because they see through God's eyes. Right.
So they see people as God sees them.
Yeah. Acts 10:28, which Britt just released the song All in All, which is amazing. You need to go listen to it. Don't you call unclean what he has redeemed? Like, it's my favorite lyric in the song. But it goes back to Acts 10:28. Peter getting this revelation from God, and he says, don't call anyone or anything impure or unclean. Right. Which, how different would our lives be if we lived this way? Like, this is what to be blessed, this is what to be pure in heart is to see people to the way that God sees them, which is extremely challenging, very easy to preach, but extremely challenging. And so I'll close this episode with a couple ideas, couple challenges, because when you start to view perfection through this lens of mercy, it'll manifest in specific ways. And I tied them to 3 E's. They were influenced by you. I teach these in my Zoe classes. But since the kingdom of God isn't a place in the future, it's a mindset. It's righteousness, peace, and joy within. I believe that perfection manifests in three ways. It's one, knowing your identity, which you just talked about, knowing who you are, you're a son and daughter of God permanently by Christ doing, not yours. It's understanding inheritance. So when you know who you are, you'll know what you have. And even in that story of the prodigal son, the father responds to the oldest son is like, what are you talking about? Everything I have is yours. What are you asking for? What if we had that mentality in our day-to-day lives? And then the last one is influence. When you stop striving for a position that you already have, you start walking in the influence you already have, knowing how to empower others, which is believing the best about them, even while knowing the worst. It's giving mercy to the world. This is that expression piece. And it will cause you to walk in greatness. And greatness is a big thing for me. It's one of my favorite things to preach. If you look at the two stories between Jesus and the disciples arguing over greatness, he never rebukes them for their desire to be great. He challenges what their desire was.
Right.
Both times.
Or showed them what greatness really was.
Yeah. And in both times, with the second time, he washes the disciples' feet.
Right.
In other words, it's, serving, loving, showing mercy, empowering other people. That is true greatness. And God does not have a problem with you wanting to be great, but he wants you to understand that greatness is about getting underneath people and lifting them up. Right. And so that's like my favorite thing to preach at youth conferences, is empowering people to be great. Greatness is not about winning, controlling, or proving. It's about liberating, healing, and restoring. And then from that portion of the ebook, I actually go into the 4 ways that you are most like God, which is a podcast episode we did, 169, when you're most like God. We came up with 4 ways that you are most like God in the way that you act. And again, when you understand that perfection is something you experience because of Christ, but then it looks like mercy to the world, you will be flowing in these 4 ways. Do you remember the 4 ways you are most like God? Can you name them off the top of your head?
Right.
Well, this is something we live now.
Yeah, 100%. And if we go back to 1 John 4, 17, as he is, so are we now in the world. So this is our expression of being Jesus to the world. And so we're never more like God than when we're creating, sustaining, I don't know, I'll say giving, and I will say, loving, but that's not it.
Restoring.
That
was good. But in the order was creating, which you're never more like God than when you're creating. He's the creator. So what are you, listener, what are you not creating that you need to be? And is it because you're scared of the criticism? Well, who cares? Because no one has a voice like yours. Start to create what it is you have a desire, what you're passionate about. Giving, and this isn't just financially. This is in your time, your talents, your treasure. You're never going to be more like God than when you're giving. Yeah. Restoring, that is the heart. The ministry of reconciliation, which is everybody's ministry now, is to restore people. And then sustaining, which we argue, I need to go back and listen to the podcast. I'm going to throw out a number. I think like 85% of our lives in every area is going to be in this realm of sustaining.
Well, because what we talked about, now that you're saying this, I do remember that podcast episode, and like the creating of something is like the sexy part of it. Like it's new, it's needed. We're going to do big things. We're going to start something. And I'll go back to what I even mentioned earlier, the RElife, like so much excitement around that, and buying the home and the properties. And now we got the systems in place and the moms moved in. Oh, now we have to still sustain what we have built, and
no one sees it.
It is a lot of hard work. It's mostly behind the scenes. No one sees the day-to-day operation that has to happen and the decisions that have to happen behind the scenes literally every day to keep this nonprofit continuing and making an impact and caring for those that now are under our care. And the sustaining piece, it's probably the biggest portion of anything you will do. But it's tough.
Seriously, we could go
it's hard work.
Like marriage, the wedding and wedding night. Creating
the honeymoon. They even call it a honeymoon season, right? The
The
first few months or the first year.
Gosh,
you're still in the honeymoon phase.
Majority of marriage is sustaining. The parenting. Oh, the creating aspect of parenting is the best. Pick up what I'm putting down. But then majority of parenting is sustaining, like constantly sustaining. The new job, they say it takes you scientifically about 90 days to figure out whether or not you actually like your job when you first start, because everybody, those first 3 months, this is amazing. New routines, new relationships. but the majority of our jobs are sustaining.
Mm-hmm.
And sustaining, I like that you use the word sexy because that's the provocative word that it is. Like all the other three can have aspects of sexiness. I don't think there's any aspect of sustaining that is sexy. That's the hard work. That's the behind the scenes. That's the maintenance mode.
Yeah.
And that's
But it's the reason why celebration is so important, because
Good
sustaining becomes sexy when it's celebrated.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is,
did you just make that up? That's a good quote.
yeah, it's pretty
Say
cool.
it again.
Sustaining becomes sexy when it's celebrated.
And
And
I'll write that down.
the reason why I said that is because you think about like my mom and dad, faithful to ministry and serve as lead pastors and pastoring this community for like 34 years. And most of that was sustaining what was built. They had seasons of highs and lows. They had seasons of creating. They had seasons of figuring out what's next and shifting based on community needs, based on what they felt like the Holy Spirit wanted to do. And the drudgery of sometimes day to day is real. And in that 34 years, I'm sure there were a lot of years and seasons that were hard, that were difficult, that were literally nothing new and exciting, but just sustaining what was already created. But then there's an element of whenever you celebrate that 34 years of sustaining something, it probably will lead to the biggest aspect of celebration than even starting something.
Come on, you're preaching. And that's what I argue even greatness is. Like greatness is sustaining. Greatness, listener, you are already great because a great God lives in you. Like you're a great parent, you're a great spouse. Can you grow in certain areas? Absolutely. But you are already great because you're sustaining the day to day. And hopefully you're inspired to then live in what greatness is. Greatness aren't these massive aha creating moments all the time. It's the, man, I like what you said. I wrote it down. Sustaining. It's the sustaining part. Sustaining becomes sexy when it's celebrated. And it kind of has all those on it.
Maybe.
I like it.
Yep.
And so you, the listener, as we close this episode, I have some reflection questions. But this week, I don't want you to try to be perfect. I want you to express the perfection that's already in you because you're already perfect. You were created perfect.
Be you.
Be you. And so here's some reflection questions. How has your definition of perfect changed over time? And by over time, over the last almost 30 minutes of this podcast, listening to us, and or if you've read the ebook, when was the last time your faith looked like joy, or in other words, like dancing? What would it look like for you to practice mercy toward yourself this week? Because the way that you speak to yourself will flow out to other people. So if you're not kind to people, it's probably because you're not kind to yourself. Which of the kingdom gifts, righteousness, peace, or joy, do you need to embrace more deeply right now as you're listening to our voices? Number 5 is, how can you express the 4 flows of divine life, creating, giving, restoring, sustaining in your everyday world? And then lastly, who is God inviting you to love like Jesus loved Judas, freely and without condition?
I love it. And so as you think about those questions, you might need to go back through some of those. I'd also say really dive into that Sermon on the Mount when Jesus does say, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And I would just challenge you to begin to see people and have the perspective of how does God see them, and watch him just download revelation, watch him blow your mind with not only his goodness, but how he sees people as good. And you can begin to shift that in your life as well. And so be perfect, as in be merciful to the people around you, and watch your life begin to change.
Yeah, you're loved, and there's nothing you can do about it.